this first installment, we'll introduce the field of strategy. It's a discipline that allows you to dissect problems, orchestrate solutions, confound the opposition, and achieve your goals in even the most competitive environments. Whether you're an established working professional, maybe one with a top-notch MBA, a JD, or a master's in public policy, or just an entrepreneurial high school student, this series will give you a new appreciation of what you think you know about strategy and a much broader array of tools to bring to bear, especially in competitive environments. Knowing the formal science of strategy can make almost anyone more effective at achieving any type of goal. We're going to look at things you may be familiar with: military science, Sun Tzu's Art of War, OODA Loop, and business strategy with competitive advantage, psychology of decision making, and other tools and concepts. But we're also going to touch on some things you may be less familiar with. Academic areas like systems theory and its subordinate sciences of chaos and complexity theory. These will give us a better understanding of the problems in the environment we're attempting to adapt. We'll also look at economic utility theory and game theory, which help us predict the courses of action that others are likely to follow. Integrated with this, we'll need to spend a little bit of time on mathematical probability. We'll also incorporate a variety of topics from psychology so we can understand cognitive biases and limitations, so we can avoid them, and so we can understand how others are likely to respond to unfolding events and how they might be influenced. Now here's a really neat thing. All this stuff fits together. These presentations will not just give you tools, they will tell you how all these tools come together in this comprehensive method for building efficient, effective strategies to create lasting solutions. You'll be faster at strategy because by knowing the right tools, you won't be solving issues intuitively. You'll know the right way right away. You'll know, oh, in this situation, I can use this or that tool, rather than approaching things with the more common, I think this might do the trick mindset. That I think mindset is a reliance on intuition. Intuition is actually one of the biggest competitors for the formal science of strategy. Everyone plans, they accomplish things, and most people trust their intuition. It got them this far, why try something new? Admittedly, in fact, there are times in creating and executing strategy when you have to rely on your intuition. But you need to know that it can be flawed. In later lectures, we'll get into solving that problem. Right now, I just want to convince you the problem exists. Part of strategy is being able to dissect problems. I mentioned that. Along the way, you're dissecting the problem so you can identify the most effective solution. So let's take the Monty Hall problem. I like this problem because even though it doesn't get into building a strategy, it demonstrates how understanding the nature of the problem, the root cause, is often integral to picking the best solution. And at the same time, it also demonstrates how intuition can be flawed. The situation is, Monty shows you 3 doors. There's a prize behind one of them, and you get to take your pick. Let's say you pick door number 1. Monty says, well, it's a good thing you didn't pick door number 3 because that was a loser. He opens the door, wah wah, no prize. But there's still door number 2. You want to stick with door number 1, or do you want to switch and get what's behind door number 2? Okay, there's your problem. Is it better to stay with door 1, switch to door 2, or doesn't it make a difference? Your intuition's probably saying, what's the big deal? It's 50-50, right? Well, you can pause the video and think if you want, and you don't need to be ashamed of it. A lot of PhDs got this wrong when Merlin Faux Savant first published the problem. Alright, are you ready? You should switch. 2 out of 3 times the prize is going to be behind the other door. Let's break the problem down. You know that when you first pick the door, you've got a 1 in 3 chance of being right. That's the easy part. The next step, though, this gets a little tricky. Everyone also knows in strategy you need to assess the problem from the other guy's point of view. But then most folks don't stop and consider Monty's position here. First, there's only 1 prize, and he knows where it is. And he has 2 doors, so we can always open a door with no prize. In fact, the game doesn't allow him to open the door with the prize. You know before the game even starts, you know when he opens the door, it's not going to have the prize. His opening the door gives you no new information, and it doesn't change the odds. You're picking 1 out of 3 doors, so 2 out of 3 times you've picked wrong. That means 2 out of 3 times the prize has to be behind the door Monty's offering you. If you're like most people, your intuition fooled you. Monty put in a distraction that fools you into thinking the odds somehow magically transform to 50-50. Ah, Monty, you magnificent bastard. We're on to you. Alright, that's a demonstration of how understanding the problem can reveal the optimal solution, and of how intuition can fail you. Intuition being that feeling that if there's 2 doors, you're not sure which one, it must be 50-50. But that was just a quick demonstration of a small piece of this much broader field of strategy we're talking about. So let's get started with the rest of the picture. For starters, the word strategy gets a lot of use, so let me be clear. The strategy we're talking about here is plans for achieving an overall aim. This is distinct from what I'll refer to as tactics, which, for purposes of this presentation, or all these presentations, are the actions you'll take to achieve different effects that lead you closer and closer towards your final goal. Most people learn tactics, and they think that being good with tactics is strategy. It's not. They're apples and oranges. Or, more accurately, it's like a car and gasoline. They're totally different, but you need them both. As Sun Tzu said, Tactics without strategy is like the noise before defeat. You really need to know the difference. So let's take a look here. In business, the strategic goal is maximizing profit. This creates intermediate goals of either or both of increasing revenue or reducing costs. To accomplish these, you're going to take other tactical actions. For example, increasing sales, pricing appropriately, improving efficiency, or reducing input costs. In litigation, the overall aim, the strategic goal, is generally to achieve or avoid a lengthy sentence or money damages. Generally, this involves having a jury see things your way. To achieve this, you want to impanel a favorable jury, make argument, and get witnesses to say things that help you. We can see on this chart that tactics are pretty specific to their field. You need to understand business to do things like pricing and supply chain management. And you probably need to know something about trial procedure and the rules of evidence if you hope to get the right information in front of a jury. Accomplishing any of these individual tasks is a tactical action. But then there's the way all these tactics link together to achieve the strategic goal. That's strategy. And it turns out that the considerations in linking tactics to achieve any goal are universal. Strategy is strategy regardless of the field of application. How can that be? I'm glad you asked. In every situation, whether you're running a nonprofit, running footballs down a field, whatever, you're dealing with systems and human psychology and probability, and regardless of the field of application, all systems share certain properties, it turns out. All humans are subject to human psychology and the same competitive behaviors. And probability is just math. Math and human psychology do not change just because you're working in a different occupation. So a strategist can bring his skill set to bear in any field in which he knows the tactics. What we're going to cover in this set of 5-minute presentations will apply to anything you want to achieve. Alright, this 5 minutes is up. We just discussed how strategy is an actual skill set that makes people more effective in reaching their goals. We looked at the Monty Hall problem that demonstrated in just one niche of strategy how knowing how to break down the problem suggests a solution that is generally superior to the solution intuition offers. Then we went on and covered how strategy is different than tactics, and if you know strategy, you can apply it to any field, profession, or goal-oriented pursuit in which you know the tactics. 5 minutes wasn't enough time to tell you all the topics we're going to cover in the coming presentations, but I put a laundry list of them up on the blog. We're going to cover a lot of tools. The next installment begins with foundational material, the concepts you need to begin the study of strategy. Specifically, the next installment surveys the concepts of friction in the OODA loop. Thanks for your 5 minutes. It's going to pay dividends.